The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, initiated by Russia's invasion in February 2022, has profoundly impacted both nations' economies. Over the past year, the war has led to significant economic contractions, structural challenges, and shifts in economic policies in both countries. Ukraine's economy has faced significant challenges due to the ongoing conflict, but recent developments indicate a complex landscape of setbacks and emerging opportunities across various sectors. In 2022, Ukraine's GDP contracted by approximately 30%, marking a severe economic downturn. However, the economy demonstrated resilience in 2023, with an estimated growth of 5.3%. Projections for 2024 suggest a moderation in growth, with forecasts ranging from 3% to 4%, influenced by infrastructure damage and ongoing uncertainties. The industrial sector has been significantly impacted by the conflict, particularly in steel production. Advancements by Russian forces toward key industrial areas, such as Pokrovsk, threaten essential resources like coking coal, crucial for steel manufacturing. The potential loss of domestic coal supplies could reduce steel production from a projected 10 million metric tons to as low as 2-3 million, severely affecting metal exports, which were valued at nearly $2 billion in the first 8 months of 2024. The energy sector has faced disruptions due to targeted attacks on infrastructure. To mitigate revenue losses from the expiration of the Russian gas transit agreement, Ukraine plans to quadruple domestic gas transmission tariffs starting January 1, 2025. This increase aims to compensate for the loss of up to $1 billion annually but may impose additional costs on industries and consumers. The construction industry is experiencing a rebound, with real growth of 26.7% in 2023 and an expected 21.7% in 2024. This recovery is attributed to reconstruction efforts and a low base effect following significant declines in 2022. Investments in rebuilding infrastructure are driving this sector's growth, contributing to overall economic recovery. Ukraine continues to rely heavily on international financial assistance to support its budgetary needs. In 2023, the country received over $42.5 billion in foreign aid, primarily in the form of concessional loans. This support has been crucial in financing the budget deficit and debt repayments, with additional financing needs totaling $59.9 billion for the year. Inflationary pressures have been a concern, with the rate accelerating to 8.6% in September 2024. The National Bank of Ukraine has maintained the key policy rate at 13% to manage these pressures, aiming to balance economic stability with the challenges posed by the ongoing conflict. The labor market has shown signs of adaptation, with businesses adjusting to wartime conditions. However, challenges persist, including labor shortages due to displacement and mobilization. Efforts to stimulate value-added production and support small and medium-sized enterprises are underway to reshape the economy and promote growth. Ukraine's economy in 2023 and 2024 reflects a complex interplay of contraction and resilience. While certain sectors face significant challenges due to the ongoing conflict, others are exhibiting growth driven by reconstruction efforts and strategic policy measures. The continued support from international partners remains vital as Ukraine navigates this challenging economic landscape. Economic impact on Russia in 2022, Russia's GDP contracted by approximately 2.1%, a less severe decline than many analysts had anticipated. This resilience was partly due to the country's substantial foreign reserves and a swift policy response to sanctions. In 2023, the Russian economy rebounded with a reported growth of 3.6%, driven by increased government spending, particularly in the defense sector, and a reorientation of trade towards non-Western countries. As of the third quarter of 2024, the GDP growth rate was reported at 3.1% year-over-year, indicating a continuation of this positive trend. The energy sector remains a cornerstone of Russia's economy, accounting for a significant portion of government revenues and exports. Western sanctions, including the G7's price cap of $60 per barrel on Russian oil implemented in December 2022, have aimed to constrain these revenue streams. In response, Russia has sought alternative markets, notably in Asia, offering discounts to attract buyers. For instance, India's BPCL has increased purchases from the Middle East to replace shortfalls in Russian crude supplies. Sanctions have restricted Russia's access to Western technology and machinery, impacting industrial production. The development of advanced military equipment, such as the Oreshnik missile, has been hindered by the lack of access to Western-made components, underscoring Russia's dependence on foreign technology for its defense industry. To finance the ongoing military operations, the Russian government has considered increasing personal income and corporate taxes. These measures aim to bolster state revenues but may also place additional burdens on businesses and consumers, potentially dampening economic activity. The onset of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 led to a substantial increase in military expenditure, which had notable short-term effects on the nation's GDP. In 2022, Russia's military spending rose by 9.2% to approximately $86.4 billion, accounting for 4.1% of its GDP, up from 3.7% in 2021. This surge in defense spending contributed to economic activity, with the Russian economy exhibiting a 3.6% growth in GDP in 2023. The increased military expenditure stimulated sectors linked to defense production and associated industries, providing a temporary boost to economic performance. However, this growth is not without significant concerns. The heavy reliance on military spending has led to economic imbalances, including rising inflation and labor shortages, particularly as resources are diverted from civilian sectors to support defense initiatives. Such an economic model, driven by militarization, is considered unsustainable in the long term and may undermine future economic stability. In summary, while the escalation in military expenditure following the invasion of Ukraine provided a short-term boost to Russia's GDP, it also introduced structural challenges that could impede sustainable economic growth in the future. In summary, while Russia's economy has demonstrated resilience in the face of sanctions and the costs associated with the war, significant challenges remain. The energy sector continues to be a vital component of the economy, but sanctions have necessitated a shift towards alternative markets and strategies. Industrial production faces hurdles due to import dependencies, and proposed financial measures may have complex implications for economic activity. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has profoundly disrupted global supply chains, particularly in the energy and agricultural sectors, leading to significant economic ramifications for both nations and the broader international community. Impact on Ukraine's supply routes and economic diversification. Ukraine, traditionally a major exporter of agricultural products, has faced substantial challenges due to the blockade of its Black Sea ports. Before the war, approximately 98% of Ukraine's grain exports were transported via the Black Sea. The closure of these ports necessitated the development of alternative export routes for neighboring countries such as Romania and Poland. However, logistical hurdles, including differences in rail gauge standards between Ukraine and Poland, have impeded the efficient transport of goods. These bottlenecks have constrained Ukraine's export capacity, affecting global food supply chains and contributing to rising commodity prices. To mitigate these challenges, the European Union has implemented measures to facilitate Ukrainian exports. Initiatives such as the Solidarity Lanes have been established to streamline border procedures and enhance infrastructure, aiming to increase the flow of goods through alternative land routes. Despite these efforts, the volume of exports via these channels remains limited compared to pre-war levels, underscoring the difficulties in replicating the efficiency of maritime transport. Impact on Russia's energy exports and the emergence of the Grey Fleet. In response to international sanctions targeting its energy sector, Russia has adopted strategies to circumvent these restrictions and maintain its oil exports. One notable development is the deployment of a Grey Fleet, or Shadow Fleet, a collection of aging tankers operating under obscure ownership and often employing deceptive practices to evade detection. Estimates suggest that this fleet comprises up to 600 vessels, facilitating the clandestine transport of Russian oil to markets in Asia and other regions. The use of this Grey Fleet has enabled Russia to sustain a significant portion of its oil exports despite sanctions. However, this practice raises substantial environmental and safety concerns. The advanced age and questionable maintenance of these vessels increase the risk of maritime accidents, which could lead to ecological disasters. Additionally, the lack of transparency associated with these operations complicates efforts to enforce international sanctions and maintain maritime security. Global economic implications. The disruptions in supply chains stemming from the conflict have had widespread economic consequences. In the energy sector, Europe's efforts to reduce dependence on Russian gas have led to increased imports from alternative suppliers, contributing to higher energy prices and inflationary pressures. The reconfiguration of energy supply routes has also necessitated substantial investments in infrastructure and posed challenges in ensuring energy security. In the agricultural domain, the reduced export capacity of Ukrainian grain has exacerbated food insecurity in regions reliant on these supplies. The resulting increase in global food prices has strained economies, particularly in developing countries, and heightened the risk of hunger and malnutrition. Efforts to establish alternative supply routes have been met with logistical challenges, limiting their effectiveness in fully compensating for the loss of Black Sea shipping lanes. Conclusion: the Russia-Ukraine war has led to significant disruptions in global supply chains, with both countries adapting through the development of new export routes and mechanisms to circumvent sanctions. While these adaptations have allowed for the partial continuation of trade, they have introduced new challenges and risks, including environmental hazards and economic inefficiencies. The broader global economy continues to grapple with the repercussions of these disruptions, facing increased prices and supply chain uncertainties that affect a wide range of industries and consumers worldwide. The loss of human capital due to displacement, casualties, and conscription poses long-term challenges for both economies. Rebuilding infrastructure, restoring investor confidence, and reintegrating displaced populations will be critical for sustainable economic recovery in the post-conflict period. The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine has profound implications for human capital in both nations, affecting demographics, economic reconstruction, and potential political transformations. In Ukraine, the war has precipitated significant population displacement, with millions seeking refuge abroad. This mass exodus exacerbates existing demographic challenges, including an aging population and declining birth rates, potentially leading to a labor shortage that could impede post-war reconstruction efforts. The conflict has also disrupted education and healthcare systems, resulting in a deterioration of human capital that may have long-term effects on productivity and economic growth. Russia faces its own demographic hurdles. The mobilization of military-aged men has led to a notable emigration, further straining a society already grappling with low birth rates and an aging demographic. This outflow of human capital could have enduring repercussions on the country's labor market and economic vitality. Reconstruction and economic recovery: Ukraine's post-war reconstruction will necessitate substantial investment in infrastructure and human capital development. The return and reintegration of refugees, alongside the restoration of education and healthcare services, will be critical to rebuilding a resilient economy. International support and effective governance will play pivotal roles in this process. Russia, while less affected by physical destruction, may encounter economic challenges stemming from sustained international sanctions and the costs associated with prolonged military engagement. The redirection of resources towards the war effort has the potential to hinder investments in critical sectors, thereby affecting long-term economic growth. Potential political transformations: the war's outcome could precipitate significant political changes in both countries. In Ukraine, a successful defense against Russian aggression may bolster democratic institutions and national unity, potentially accelerating integration with Western political and economic structures. Conversely, prolonged conflict could lead to political instability, especially if economic recovery falters. In Russia, the war's domestic unpopularity and economic repercussions might catalyze political dissent, challenging the current regime's stability. However, the government's control over media and civil society could suppress significant political upheaval in the short term. Prospects for conflict resolution: as of December 2024, the prospect of the war concluding in 2025 remains uncertain. While some analysts and political figures, such as Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, suggest that the conflict may end in 2025, either through negotiations or military outcomes, others caution that entrenched positions and ongoing hostilities could prolong the war beyond this timeframe. The situation remains fluid, with diplomatic efforts continuing alongside military engagements. In summary, the Russia-Ukraine war poses substantial challenges to human capital in both nations, with long-term demographic, economic, and political implications. The trajectory of these impacts will largely depend on the conflict's duration, the effectiveness of reconstruction efforts, and the potential for political reforms in the post-war period.